Ever found yourself wide awake at 3 a.m., mind just buzzing, desperately wishing for sleep?
Uh-huh.
Or maybe you're just dragging through the day feeling foggy and irritable because last night was, well, a complete bust.
Yeah, that sounds familiar to a lot of people.
You are absolutely not alone. Insomnia, that unwelcome nightly guest, is incredibly common. We're talking 10 to 20% of people affected.
And for about half of those, it's not just occasional, it's chronic. A real struggle.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And it's so much more than just feeling tired, isn't it? It can actually double your risk of depression and leads to pretty significant health and, well, social costs too.
It really does have wide-ranging impacts.
But what if we told you there's a kind of secret two-way conversation happening deep inside your body?
Yeah.
Right between your gut and your brain.
A conversation that directly influences your ability to get those crucial Z's.
Precisely. Today we're diving into some truly groundbreaking research. It's a study titled Investigating Bidirectional Causal Relationships Between Gut Microbiota and Insomnia.
Yeah, by Shi and colleagues, published just this year in General Psychiatry. Really fascinating stuff.
So our mission for this deep dive is to unpack this complex, newly understood connection,
Yeah.
the one between your gut microbiome, all those tiny organisms in your gut, and insomnia.
We want to explore what this means for understanding this really widespread condition.
And crucially, how it could open doors for entirely new treatment strategies. By the end, you'll have a clear shortcut to being well-informed on this cutting-edge science.
Right. And, for a while now, we've understood that an imbalance in your gut microbiota, sometimes called dysbiosis, can affect brain function.
Through the gut-brain axis, yeah.
Exactly. We know these tiny organisms play a huge role in our overall health, but the specifics, like who's talking to whom, especially between certain gut bacteria and insomnia itself, that part's been pretty unclear.
Kind of a black box?
Sort of, yeah, which is what pushed researchers to look deeper. And this deep dive into the Shi et al. Study offers compelling preliminary evidence for something really vital and a causal relationship. It's not just, a correlation where two things happen together. This research suggests specific gut microbes are causally linked to insomnia.
Okay, so they might actually cause it or contribute to causing it.
Potentially, yes. And remarkably, it goes the other way, too. Insomnia also seems to causally affect your gut microbiota.
Wow. Okay, so it's genuinely reciprocal?
It appears to be a real two-way street. And this provides really novel perspectives for developing microbiome-centered treatments. It could completely reframe how we think about sleep problems.
So it's clear insomnia is a huge issue for millions. We touched on the numbers, up to 20% incidence, half chronic. But beyond the scale, what makes insomnia such a widespread and, frankly, difficult condition to manage?
Well, like you said, it's complex. It's not a simple condition with one single cause, which is exactly why it's so challenging.
Right.
Insomnia is more like an intricate dance of genetic factors, environmental influences, behavioral patterns, physiological things, all contributing to this state of excessive wakefulness.
And things like stress must play a big role.
Oh, absolutely. Common triggers like stress from illness, work pressures, family problems, they frequently impact sleep quality. And often, insomnia can be an early symptom of other issues, or it coexists with other mental and physical health conditions. It gets tangled up.
Making it incredibly complex to treat.
Exactly.
And central to understanding this complexity, you often mention the gut-brain axis. Can you give us a quick refresher on how that system works and why it's so vital?
Sure. So at the heart of this is this constant communication between your enteric nervous system, the ENS in your gut, sometimes called the second brain,
Right.
and your central nervous system in your actual brain. They're always talking mainly through this huge information highway called the vagus nerve.
Okay.
This axis is just a crucial pathway. So when those gut microbiotas get out of balance, when you have that dysbiosis we mentioned, it can significantly impact brain health.
And that links to things beyond sleep, too.
Definitely. It contributes to neuropsychiatric conditions like mild cognitive impairment, depression, even Alzheimer's disease. The connections are far-reaching.
And we've had clues about this gut-sleep connection specifically for a while, haven't we?
We have. For quite some time, researchers have noticed changes in the composition and function of gut microbiota in patients who have insomnia.
Ah, okay.
These observations were like the initial breadcrumbs, hinting that there might be something deeper going on than just coincidence. It really set the stage for studies like this one to dig into causality.
Now, proving cause and effect, that's the really hard part in science, isn't it? especially with something as complex as the human body. We
Mhm.
talk about that challenge a lot.
We do, because traditional observational studies, they often struggle with hidden variables, confounding factors, we call them.
Right, things you didn't measure that might be the real cause.
Exactly. And then there's the classic chicken or egg problem, reverse causation. Did the gut changes cause the insomnia, or did the insomnia disrupt the gut? It can easily muddy the waters.
Which makes it hard to know what to target.
Precisely. And that's why establishing causality is so crucial, yet so difficult.
Okay, so this is where Mendelian randomization, or MR, comes in. And it sounds like a remarkably powerful tool that this study used.
It really is. It gets us much closer to understanding true cause and effect.
How does it work, basically?
Well, you can think of Mendelian randomization like a natural randomized trial, because genetic variants are assigned randomly when we're conceived like shuffling a deck of cards.
Oh.
MR uses these genetic variations as sort of instruments or proxies to infer causal relationships between an exposure, like certain gut bacteria levels, and an outcome, like insomnia.
Ah, so it uses our naturally randomized genetics to bypass some of those confounding issues.
Exactly. It cleverly minimizes the impact of those confounders and the reverse causation problem that plague many traditional studies. They essentially leverage nature's own randomization.
That's pretty ingenious. And the scale of this study sounds impressive, too.
Oh, it's robust. For the insomnia data, they used a huge genome-wide association study, a GWACE meta-analysis. It involved, what, over 386,000 subjects?
Yeah, with over 100,000 identified as having insomnia. That's massive.
It is. And then for the gut microbiota data, they tapped into two extensive data sets. The MyBiogen Alliance, over 18,000 participants,
Right.
and the Dutch Microbiome Project, with over 8,000. Combined, these covered hundreds of different bacterial types, a huge pool of information.
So how do they actually analyze all this data using MTAR?
They performed what's called a two-sample MR, or TSMR, analysis. The primary method was the inverse variance weighted, or IVW, technique.
Okay.
But they didn't stop there. They were really rigorous. They used multiple other advanced statistical methods, things like MR-Egger, Mr. Presso, almost like a safety net, to check their results.
Like a belt and suspenders approach.
Exactly, to confirm the findings were robust and to really try and nail down the direction of causality. It shows good scientific practice.
And it's worth noting, right, that the participants were all of European descent.
Yes, that's an important point. All participants in the original GWS studies were of European ancestry. That's a consideration for generalizability, which we should definitely circle back to.
Okay, let's get to the really juicy part, the findings. First, what did they find about the gut microbiota influencing insomnia? Any sleep robbers identified?
Yes, you could call them that. The study identified 14 different gut bacterial groups, or taxa, that seemed to increase the risk of insomnia.
14. Wow. How strong was the link?
The odds ratios, which kind of indicate the likelihood, were relatively modest, ranging from 1.01 to 1.04. So a slight increase in these bacteria might just nudge your risk up a bit.
Like a tiny, persistent whisper keeping you awake.
Something like that. And the most significant one, even after they implied strict statistical corrections, was a genus called Clostridium inocuum group.
Okay, Clostridium inocuum group. Noted.
Yeah, that one stood out. But there were others, too, like Prevotella 7, Lechnoclostridium, Parabacteroides, a whole list from different data sets suggesting it's a complex picture.
So those are the potential bad guys. Did they find any sleep protectors, any microbes linked to reduced risk?
They did. Conversely, 8 gut bacterial groups showed a potential protective effect, reducing insomnia risk.
Okay, fewer protectors than robbers, it seems.
Numerically, yes. Their odds ratios were between 0.97 and 0.99. So again, modest effects, but potentially beneficial.
Any examples?
Sure. From the MyBiogen data, genera like Coprococcus 1 and Lactococcus, and from the Dutch data, genus Odorobacter and species like Ruminococcus torx.
Coprococcus 1, Odorobacter. Interesting. It really is a diverse landscape down there, isn't it?
Absolutely. Different microbes playing very different, sometimes opposing roles in this gut sleep story.
But the conversation doesn't stop there. You said it's a two-way street. So did the study find that insomnia itself changes the gut?
Yes, and this is really fascinating. Established insomnia was found to causally decrease the abundance of 7 bacterial groups.
Decrease.
And conversely, it appeared to increase the abundance of 12 other groups.
So being unable to sleep actively reshapes your microbiome.
That's what the causal analysis suggests. For instance, insomnia seemed to lead to lower levels of genera, like Paracettarella and Cettarella, while potentially increasing others, like Odorobacter again, and species like Holdemania filiformis. And some of these increases were quite substantial, with odds ratios suggesting abundances could increase significantly, even over 4 times higher for some.
Wow. And didn't you mention Odorobacter showing up in both directions?
Exactly. That's the bidirectional highlight. The genus Odorobacter, specifically from the Dutch dataset results, showed a significant positive causal relationship in both directions after all the rigorous testing.
Meaning it seems to influence insomnia risk, and insomnia seems to influence its levels right back.
Precisely. That finding really underscores the potentially reciprocal nature of this connection. It's not just one thing causing another. They might be influencing each other continuously.
Okay, this is all incredibly interesting.
Yeah.
But it brings us to the so what question. How? How do these tiny microbes actually talk to our brain and affect something like sleep? What are the pathways?
Right. That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? The mechanisms are complex, no doubt. But we know the gut microbiome regulates this gut-brain axis through several key routes.
Like hormones?
Yes, endocrine or hormonal signaling. Also neuronal pathways involving direct nerve signals.
The vagus nerve you mentioned.
Largely, yes. And also immune signaling pathways. It's like a full-spectrum communication network influencing everything from mood to metabolism.
And now, potentially, sleep.
Exactly.
Let's get specific. Some bacteria, like that Clostridium inoculum group, the sleep robber, they can metabolize something called tryptophan. Why is tryptophan important here?
Tryptophan is absolutely crucial. It's an amino acid, and it's the precursor, the starting material for making 5-HTP.
Okay.
And 5-HTP then gets converted into serotonin, or 5-HT.
The feel-good neurotransmitter.
That's the one. But here's the kicker for sleep. Serotonin is then converted into melatonin.
The sleep hormone.
Bingo. Both serotonin and melatonin are absolutely vital for regulating our sleep-wake cycles, our circadian rhythms, and also things like emotions, cognition.
So certain gut bugs could be messing with our sleep chemistry directly by how they handle tryptophan.
That's a key hypothesis, yes. They might influence how much building block is available for these crucial sleep-related molecules.
Okay, what else? You often mention short-chain fatty acids, SCFAs. How do they fit in?
Right, SCFAs. These are really important metabolites produced when your gut bacteria ferment dietary fibers, the stuff you eat that you can't digest yourself.
Like prebiotics.
Exactly. So bacteria like that Clostridium inoculum group can produce acetate, while Coprococcus 1, one of our sleep protectors, produces propionate. Others produce butyrate.
And these SCFAs get absorbed.
They do. And acetate, propionate, and butyrate can activate specific receptors called FFAR2 and FFAR3, which are surprisingly highly expressed in the brain.
In the brain. So they cross the blood-brain barrier or signal somehow.
They appear to signal to the brain, yes, directly or indirectly. They're known to regulate neurological function, things like learning, memory, emotion, and potentially sleep.
Okay, but is it always good?
Well, here's an interesting nuance the researchers point out. While higher propionate levels were linked to longer uninterrupted sleep in infants,
Which sounds good.
right. But in elderly individuals with insomnia symptoms, higher levels of acetate, butyrate, and propionate were actually associated with lower sleep quality.
Huh. It's complicated.
It suggests the effects might be context-dependent, maybe dose-dependent, or differ by age or health status. It's something future research really needs to untangle. It's not just more SCFAs equals better sleep.
Got it. And it's not just hormones and these metabolites, but our immune system is involved too, right?
Absolutely. Your gut lining is packed with immune cells. It's a major immune organ, constantly interacting with the trillions of microbes there.
Right.
And SCFAs, especially butyrate from certain Clostridium species, are known to dramatically influence the gut's immune balance, often reducing inflammation.
And inflammation is linked to poor sleep.
Deeply intertwined, yes. We know that systemic inflammation and immune responses can definitely disrupt sleep architecture and contribute to the feeling of non-restorative sleep often found in insomnia.
So the gut microbes influence immunity, which then influences sleep. Another pathway.
Exactly. It's all interconnected.
Now, thinking bigger picture again, you mentioned many of the bacterial genera identified here. Bacteroids, Coprococcus, Prevotella, Clostridium. They've also popped up in research on other mental health conditions.
That's right. Things like major depressive disorder, bipolar disorder, schizophrenia, even Parkinson's disease.
What does that tell us? Is there a common thread?
It strongly suggests there might be shared underlying mechanisms, that the gut microbiome's influence isn't siloed to just one condition. It seems to play a role across a whole spectrum of neuropsychiatric issues, likely involving similar pathways like inflammation, neurotransmitter metabolism, and gut-brain signaling.
Fascinating. And just to reiterate the two-way street idea, it's not just the gut affecting sleep. Insomnia itself, once it takes hold, can actively change the gut. It sounds like a potential vicious cycle.
It really can be. The study touches on how established insomnia might do this. It could enhance the expression of virulence genes in certain gut bacteria, maybe via stress signals from the gut's own nervous system, the ENS.
Making the bad bugs worse.
Potentially. We also see elevated inflammation markers like interleukin-6, IL-6, in people with primary insomnia. Insomnia can also alter levels of key neurotransmitters like serotonin and dopamine systemically, and even disrupt the circadian rhythms not just in the brain, but in the gut itself.
Wow, the gut has its own clock, too.
It does, influenced by feeding times and the brain's master clock. So yeah, your sleepless nights aren't just a consequence. They seem to be an active participant in reshaping your internal microbial world, potentially perpetuating the problem.
Okay, looking ahead then, expert. What are some important considerations or caveats we need to keep in mind with these findings?
Well, number one, as I mentioned, is the population studied. All participants were of European descent.
Right.
So we need to be cautious when generalizing these results. Microbiome composition can vary significantly based on ethnicity, geography, diet.
So the specific sleep robbers or protectors might be different in other populations.
They could be, yes. Or the relationships might differ in strength. We need more diverse studies to really understand the global picture.
That makes sense. What else?
Another key point is that Mendelian randomization, while powerful for getting at causality related to genetic predisposition, doesn't fully capture the impact of environmental factors.
Like diet, lifestyle, stress.
Exactly. All those things profoundly impact your specific microbiome day to day, and they interact with your genes in complex ways. MR focuses on the genetic tendency towards certain microbiome features or insomnia risk.
So it's not the whole story on its own.
It's a crucial piece of the puzzle, providing evidence for a causal link, but future research needs to really integrate these genetic predispositions with environmental influences to get the full picture. Teasing apart those gene-environment interactions is key.
Understood. But despite these caveats, the implications seem pretty significant, right?
Oh, absolutely. This study offers critical preliminary evidence for that causal link we discussed. That alone provides invaluable insights for potentially developing what the authors call microbiome-inspired treatment plans for insomnia.
Microbiome-inspired treatments. What might that look like?
Well, imagine treatments that go beyond traditional sleep aids. Thinking about how to strategically rebalance your internal ecosystem to promote better sleep.
Like probiotics or prebiotics?
Potentially, yes. Specific strains of probiotics, tailored prebiotics to feed beneficial bacteria, maybe even dietary changes designed to shift the microbiome. In more complex cases, perhaps even things like fecal microbiota transplantation, though that's further down the line for insomnia specifically.
So what are the immediate next steps for researchers in this area?
Well, deeper dives into the specific mechanisms are needed, really pinning down the roles of SCFAs, the tryptophan, serotonin, melatonin pathway, the immune connections.
Getting more granular.
Exactly. And crucially, we need well-designed randomized controlled trials, RCTs, testing these microbiome-targeted intervention-specific probiotics, prebiotics, maybe symbiotics in people with insomnia.
The gold standard for proving treatment effectiveness.
Precisely. That's how we translate these exciting scientific discoveries into actual evidence-based therapeutic strategies that can help people struggling with insomnia in the real world.
We've really covered a lot today. It's been a true deep dive into this complex, reciprocal relationship between your gut microbiota and insomnia.
It really has, and the takeaway is clear. Your gut bugs might be affecting your sleep.
And your restless nights might, in turn, be reshaping the delicate balance of that internal microbial world. It's not just about your brain anymore. It's about your entire internal ecosystem working together, or sometimes against each other.
It's exciting research because it points towards entirely new ways of thinking about and potentially treating insomnia, moving beyond just focusing on the brain to consider this holistic interplay within the body.
Yeah, it really enriches our understanding of something so fundamental like sleep.
It highlights how deeply interconnected our internal systems truly are.
So here's a final provocative thought for you, our listener. How might your everyday choices think about what you eat, how you manage stress, How might those things ripple through your gut microbiome to quietly shape your nightly rest?
And then flipping it, how might a restless night then reshape the very landscape of your internal world?
What small change could you maybe explore today, perhaps related to diet or stress, that might just start to shift that gut-sleep balance in your favor? Something to think about.